Okay, I'll call this regularly scheduled Carter County School District #2 Board of Trustees meeting to order. I apologize for our slow start. Our BOCES meeting went right at 6, and it always takes us a while to swap over. Usually we start on time. First, we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. Hatch, will you lead us to the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, on the agenda, just make a note here, I say this right, that obviously Dr. Copeland's going to have a time in 6A superintendent report talking about school reopening stuff. Right after that is there's no other reports. There's an opportunity. There will be an opportunity for public comment immediately following that, and we'll have some board discussion. I was just asked to clarify that to make sure that satisfies parties. I guess that satisfies them.
That's fine. Sorry, I'm trying to get Georgia back.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
Moved and seconded to approve the agenda as presented. All in favor, say aye.
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 Thanks, Paul. Okay, we have no presentations or recognition, no correspondence, no resignations or hiring. So we will skip right to 6A, Mr. Copeland, Superintendent report and update.
All right, well, so we all know we're in bizarre times as far as trying to figure out what is going to happen. When schools closed down, of course, for whatever the last almost 3 months, I suppose, schools have been a little bit up in the air about what will be allowed, what directions we're going to have, and what requirements.
There, Georgia?
Yeah, we'll see how long that lasts.
All right, we got you now.
Here.
So we were told back in June, and when I say we, the superintendents of Wyoming, were told back in June that the WDE would be coming out with some guidelines for reopening within the week. So then that was delayed until the first week of July, basically. So most districts in June began to at least try to put together something to move forward and to have a framework of how it could look. So then they did come out with the Smart Start guidance, which is also on our website under the COVID-19 tab, but also I just put it up on the front. So this is what we got from the Wyoming Department of Education. And basically, there are 4 areas where we have to address in our reopening plan. Communication, safety, wellness, school operations, instruction, and technology. I'm not going to go through this whole plan because most people have probably gone through it. But what we did then is we came together as an admin team, as we included our nurses, and we divided these 4 sections up into groups to work on these. We set as our deadline this coming Friday, 2 days from now. Monday, we actually have a meeting to kind of do our final, pull it all together to get it in a form that is required, and that also then will come back to the board in a special meeting before the end of the month, because that is due to the Wyoming Department of Education August the 3rd. Part of the plan is, or part of the requirements are that we have to have work with our county health department to gain approval. So we did have a meeting with county health official on Tuesday. It was attended by the same group of people, the principals, the nurses, Noel, myself, Robin Brown, our special ed director, James came as chairman of the board. He could just kind of listen in and hear and ask questions. She was by Zoom, by the way, it wasn't live. So we had a whole list of questions, and basically, we have a decent outline as to what our county health department will approve so that we have the freedom to open up schools. In the meantime, I'd sent out a couple of letters, and of course, I've gotten some input on all sides of this issue, mainly that deals, probably the most contentious subject is masks. In my weekly superintendent meeting, which are on Wednesdays and include only the 48 superintendents, we had our meeting today. So the biggest area of contention across the state seems to be masks and so on. So bottom line, I don't want to get into an argument or a discussion about pro and con and who thinks what. But I would say that, you know, my goal is to write a plan that will allow us the freedom to reopen our schools. And I will say, and James will certainly welcome my comments here in a second, but I will say our county health department is giving us more flexibility than many counties across the state, probably due to our good situation in Carbon County as far as being one of the least affected as of today with that whole COVID-19 outbreak, confirmed cases, whatever you want to call it. So you know, I mean, that's really all I would say at this point. The general guidelines, and anybody that's at that meeting can correct me if I'm misstating something, but the impression I get, and I will also say that I have been in contact with Mike Hamill, who's the superintendent of Carbon 1, because the same county health, of course, applies to both the school districts. Those are the two districts in the county. They've already written a framework that they have been working on. They tweaked it somewhat. They have gained approval of the county health department already. So he was kind enough to just share that, so we had some kind of idea of what the philosophy of our county health department was going to be. And basically, in general, I would say that as far as masks are concerned, there's a lot of pieces about this, but as far as masks are concerned, our county health department has basically said that masks cannot be completely optional, or they would not approve a plan where masks were completely optional for in-person instruction. And that they would, so basically, that they would be basically okay as of now. Situations can change with masks being required on buses where there's not able to be 6 feet of distance, which would be most buses, frankly, whether it's routes or teams, if we get to have teams and sports schedules. And in class changes for secondary students, or when kids leave classrooms where there's not direct adult supervision to see spacing or distance. She also told us that the 6-foot distancing at a previous meeting would probably be the last requirement to be done away with at somewhere down in time. She also said that she realized that in small classes, in elementary especially, when cohorts stay together for most of the day, they're not required masks all day, which is totally impractical with young kids or with maybe a lot of kids, but kindergarten first. So when those elementary classes stay together pretty much for the most of the day, they transition together. They all go to recess together, they all go to PE together, they all go to lunch together. Masks are not required. They are going to require, so like if we have a 5th grade and a 6th grade class go to lunch in Saratoga, they can sit closer than 6 feet together for that lunch period without masks, but they do have to be spaced at least 6 feet apart between the groups. So I'm just saying we are getting some flexibility that I really didn't know what to expect, to be honest, from everything I was hearing from various entities. A lot of it was rumor, I'm sure. As far as the activities go, that is totally still up in the air. We've been asking, and I've had meetings. We've had meetings of superintendents and ADs with Ron Laird, who is the WASA director. Back in June, their philosophy or their line was you each work with your county health department to decide what is allowed and what is not as far as travel. So basically they said county health could say, well, we will not let you go to a hot spot in the state for that particular game. So then when we talked to the county health, they have basically, nobody's willing to make that decision yet, I guess is what I'm saying. They're basically wanting to wait for further guidance from WASA. WASA will have an executive committee meeting to make some of these decisions apparently on August 3rd is what we've been told. So that's just a quick update on teams. All kind of rumors out there. There was talk this morning in the superintendent group that since junior colleges have moved some of their fall sports to the spring, that could be a possibility. There's questions about whether fans will be allowed, whether it's just home fans, are there spacing? I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that we just don't know. The frustrating thing about this whole thing is that there's just so many unknowns that people are not, that we just are not being told what we will be allowed to do. So that's a quick update. You can go through this plan. We are going to address these 4 areas. One thing I will add is that one change, which is a pretty big change that WDE is allowing districts, or basically requiring districts to do, is to offer a virtual track for students that have reasons of health and so on, where they are not comfortable or because of a health condition cannot attend in person. We must develop that and then get approval for that particular program, and we will be able to count those students as students of our district and not lose that funding, which is good, because however we do that is going to cost some extra money somehow of trying to operate that virtual situation. If we move into tier 2, and bottom line, whether you're in tier 1, 2, or 3 is up to your county health department, and I guess the state health department too, in conjunction with it. So we're so dependent on what they tell us. So they will tell us if there are confirmed cases that we have to go into tier 2. She did tell me that we possibly could be in tier 2 in one of our communities, but not in the other 2 because of our distances between communities. So in other words, the situation could be different in Hannah than Saratoga. If there's an outbreak in Hannah, that doesn't necessarily mean Saratoga and Canton would have to go into tier 2. It could be countywide. They don't know. Depends on the situation. If we have people that just tell us we were around a confirmed case or whatever, we refer them to the county health department. They will direct them to what that situation would look like. There are personnel questions. There are quarantine questions that will all be determined basically through county health is what we're being told. So my goal is to come up with a plan that is general enough, but will satisfy the requirements of county health and state, WDE that is, that we can open our doors and have school. They did tell us that every school is expected to open under tier 1, which is basically open for in-class instruction with these requirements of your county health departments. So I'm sure that county health approvals will look different in Fremont County than they will in Carbon County, just because the situation is very different. So a lot of moving pieces, a lot of frustration that we can't really have firm answers that we can communicate at this point. There's no action on the plan tonight for the board because it's not completed yet. Because we basically had a week or 2 to work on this, which is what we've been doing. We will again approve or get that finalized as a administration on Monday. In the meantime, and some of you are, well, probably all of you are aware of this, I put out some surveys to parents and one for staff. As you can imagine, we're going to make those public, not with names, but with comments and all of that. We'll make public. It's not like we're trying to hide anything as far as the surveys go. And we probably will have to put out some extra surveys because since I put out the parent survey and that question, are you planning to send your student back to in-class instruction or remote education? They've added this whole virtual piece, which is different from what they had defined remote education. They defined remote education as a student sitting in front of their laptop from 8 to 3 with a 30-minute break. I don't see how practical that could ever work. But with virtual, it doesn't have to be live or what they call synchronous. It can be through our Schoology platform with some help with communication and student coaches and that sort of thing. So we're developing we're working with a lot of moving pieces right now. I wish we had definite answers on all these things we'd love to have answers for. We will get them out as soon as we can get through these steps, and everybody's pretty much in the same place. There's not been one plan so far in the state that has been approved, at least as of this morning. Most have not been submitted from the districts. Most are right where we are, trying to get all these moving pieces together in a plan that can get all these approvals so that we can move forward in the fall. So I guess that's my update. I'll be glad to answer questions, or you can make any comments since you were in the meeting.
First, add a couple things. I went to the meeting just to hear what Amanda Brown had to say. I was hoping she would come in person so we could gauge more reactions, but she was on Zoom. The big thing to me was the allowing of cohorts, an individual classroom like this, in Saratoga, each second grade or whatever would be a cohort. That as long as they're doing stuff together, they want to have desk spacing as much as we can, but they can go to PE, they need lunch together, they can move between classes in general without a mask if they're, right there. I'm, personally not a fan of masks, but they're not going to approve school opening without something. So anyways, that allowed a lot more flexibility, particularly in elementary schools, to deal with the reality of children. If the class can do most stuff together, then it's pretty normal. It just won't mix a lot. The other thing that I guess I was encouraged to hear, that they don't foresee having to go back to 100% distance learning unless things get very drastic, which of course they can't tell us what that is because they don't know. But that they, I think as Jim said, all schools in the state of Wyoming are planning to go back to in-person education. And unless things get really bad, we don't plan to be back where we were at all this spring.
The state says, if you do happen to have to go back to tier 3, you go back to your adaptive learning plan, you can change that. But I mean, that's still approved at the state level, that general guideline. We obviously are getting input from parents and staff on the strengths and weaknesses of that, which some of us could have figured out already, but we will use that to obviously tweak some things. It's kind of hard overnight to just put something in place that nobody was prepared for. So now we are having a little more time. What I kind of envision is virtual education option. So let's say a student, gets sick really for any reason, but it could be COVID, it could be having to quarantine 14 days. They could move from in class to that virtual plan for those 2 weeks and then just got it. So kind of try to make it as seamlessly as possible. And by using Schoology, which I know we haven't consistently done in the past, but by doing that and requiring all of our teachers to use that platform, all assignments will be there, all the outlines, you can put tapes of your lessons, your lectures, your interaction with your class on there. So that does provide a consistent platform across the district for possibilities that we just don't know about. So we are planning to think of ways to make that virtual school work, which will take some requirements also in another plan, and we're going to have to pull together. We're starting on that tomorrow morning with a group of us. So I will put out as much information as soon as I can on the website for e-notes. I'm happy to get input. I've not answered all the emails I've gotten. I have read them all, and I realize there's differences of opinions all across the spectrum. One of our challenges that I'm a little concerned about, we do have some staff members that have some health issues. I don't know how that's going to look, and we're going to have to discuss a little bit of that as a team and then as a board as to what we do there and what's going on. Also, a lot of personnel and labor issues are coming up. What do I do if I have this? What are my, can I teach from home? Can I be accommodated? What kind of leave is there if I have to be quarantined? On and on questions that are basically new questions that we haven't had to face. So that's why later in this meeting, we're hopefully, the board will approve to engage it at our attorney's advice, an attorney in Cheyenne that specializes in that and is helping multiple school districts answer those questions so that we're on legal ground, because bizarre times. I mean, what can I say? It's a lot of things that we just did not anticipate. And we are, I would say, we're very fortunate in Wyoming. We're not like some areas. So, yeah, or at least as of today, hopefully.
One thing, one thing I would add that they came from Amanda Brown is that if a student or a staff member does test positive for COVID, it's not necessarily a knee-jerk reaction to close the school.
Or the whole class?
with the whole class, yeah.
Because we asked that, like, so let's say a second grader came down as a confirmed case in that second grade cohort group. She indicated, now, I mean, I guess they can always change their mind, but at the meeting yesterday, she indicated that if that happened, they would, do some contact tracing and all of that, but they probably wouldn't quarantine the whole entire second grade for 14 days, because that was my question. Does the teacher and all the rest of the class have to go home for 14 days? She's indicated not unless there were multiple cases, and then they might. So.
Any idea when you're gonna have a special meeting?
That's what we're deciding now.
So it needs to be before August 3rd, because our plan, the district's plan has to be submitted to the state by then. So it will be, we'll look at a schedule, but it'll be last week of July.
I'm
probably.
thinking anywhere from the 23rd to the 28th would be somewhere, whatever the board can decide on.
Couple weeks. So so that brings up timeline. The 18 will, by this Friday,
Have the pieces together. Monday, we're gonna meet, pull it together, get it on, it may take a day or so to get it in the format all together, and then I'll share it with the board.
But the board will get it.
Tuesday, maybe next week.
okay, so we'll have it hopefully 10 days or so before that meeting.
One thing about the plan, the overall plan is a little more general, but then it does require each campus, because there are differences in cafeteria sizes, entrances and exits. So each campus will have to come up with and there's specific things that are required: an entrance plan, an exit plan, how lunch is gonna be done, how recess is gonna be done. And that's gonna be a little different because of the campus facility, the rooms and all of that. HES eats lunch in the gym, so pretty easy to space however you want to in there between cohort groups. SES is more of a challenge because there's more kids and it's not as that big of a cafeteria. So there are going to be some specific, more detailed per campus, just FYI.
And we don't submit those to the state. We submit a district plan to the state, and then each of the
Right.
principals makes their own.
Correct. We have ordered signage that's required, that we put on doors, we put the little 6-feet things down the hallways and all that. We've got that ready to do. And we are ordering masks to have available. I mean, just FYI. Don't know how many, it's not going to be required in all areas, but at least it's a backup if we have families that say, I don't have one, or I can't get one, whatever. Teams on buses, everybody's requiring masks if the teams get to go someplace together, because there's obviously going to be a whole lot more than you can't space on a bus. And also on buses, and of course, parents can always, in fact, they say that you encourage your parents to bring their kids to school. Not always the case possible, but that was in the plan. To recommendation and even to recommend kids that, parents take their kids to games and things if they want to. So I mean,
Isn't there a rule against taking your kids to games? You can't take them to the sporting activity. You can sign them out to take them home.
but that's been a local thing because this is a different time. We would probably have to change that if it's a local policy.
Is it a local policy or is it a Washington policy?
I don't
I don't
know.
think it's.
I think it'd be pretty easy to get away from that.
I don't think that's a Washington.
We may have to make a policy.
I think it's probably one of our policies, Joe.
I think it is.
But I'm sure.
Possibly, I don't.
I think it
You
is.
don't know.
I know, that's why I kind of singled you out, Joe. Policy guy.
I think it is our policy. I could be wrong.
I do, Mike Foreman's not here, he was by for the baby home, he did send an email, I just want to read his comment that, just out of respect for Mike, and he did want to be here. So if somebody does talk about masks, he said, we're not gonna argue about that, which is great. He said, Jim and the board, I would hate to waste time in a board meeting talking about wearing masks, it's required by WE and strongly recommended by CDC, when you can't social distance like the bus. The bus is where you likely have to wear it, I'm sure we'll minimize it, but need to do our part. It's not about being scared or living in fear, nor should we feed into that frame of mind. It's about being respectful and showing we can adapt. We should take advantage of these times to learn how to become a multifaceted school and can provide that quality education in school, at home, with new partners and new outcomes. COVID isn't going away, but we shouldn't act like it's political. We really need to focus on what's really important, our staff, our students, and our schools. Together we can lead. Sincerely, Mike Gordon. So he just sent it. I wanted to read it since he wasn't here.
I have other things in my report, but I don't know if you want me to go through those.
We will, let's go through, if you guys have any more questions, comments, concerns, and then I want to give these guys, the public that came, that want a chance to speak if they want about this, or ask questions, or what have you. Okay,
No. I had somebody mention to me, their biggest concern was, breaking up the routine. For example, if the child was going to school for 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden they had to go online for a week and then back to school. That was their concern of flip-flopping back and forth.
It's a fair concern.
The, if we have to maintain the 6-foot distancing, that's front, back, side to side, that's 36 square feet. What's the square footage allowed for students or in the school?
I'm not sure. That's in some facilities, man, handbook, I'm sure, for the state.
so what they,
I thought the facilities board had a square footage figured out per student.
so what Amanda Brown said on the call the other day was, so it's ideal, 6 foot is ideal in the classroom. And they'll try to space the desks apart. But some classrooms aren't set up that way. So you space what you can space and you do the best you can. And by using a little common sense and keeping the kids in that cohort, they're gonna sit next to each other at lunch. Does it really make sense? I mean, we try to space them apart, but they're gonna be close to each other. I mean, they're in school. So she just said they realize that it's not gonna be perfect, but you space them out as much as you can. And so in some classrooms, that might be 4 feet, right? Because you get the kids in, and some, I think there might be some in the camp where it might be 20 feet, you know? Not that we need to go there, but she's, it's not, that's the recommendation. But it's not like you gotta kick kids out of class because you can't space them 6 feet.
I really think the only classes right now, some of you principals are here, might can correct me, but I really think the only issues we're gonna have are 5th and 6th grade SES as far as sort of, because they're the big classes and they're one section. And that's what she told us when we asked about that. So. I haven't measured the room. I told Darren we need to go measure, just look at it and see what
But
it
I think we
was.
can make it work, just like what James had said. It may not be 6 foot, but we can get kids spaced, apart, make it work for kids.
She also said if you have sustained small group activities in a classroom where they're all working right together over 30 minutes, that's their definition of extended time where you might consider a mask depending on what's going on. Some of our classes, they wear masks, like Scott's class, they wear masks a lot of times because of the equipment they're using. So, I mean, before this thing.
How is it gonna be regulated in the class? Is that then up to the teacher's decision to, if they have to wear masks?
Well, that's a discussion we've got to have because here's going to be the hard thing, like I said earlier. So let's say we have a known health concern of a staff member, because from what I'm hearing, old people like me are the ones more at risk than the kids as far as catching anything. So I don't know that we could just leave it up to each teacher to make that decision. Maybe through the principal and have some kind of conversation about how it could look or why or what's the real reason. But I do think we are going to have to be aware that we have some individuals with some concerns that are in more high-risk groups, staff I'm talking about, well, like bus drivers. I think most of our bus drivers are probably my age or older. We can't lose all our bus drivers. We can't find them. So I'm just saying we are going to have some discussions about some of
Again,
that.
you might not put kids in the first 2 rows.
Exactly.
So,
There's things we can do.
and she did say, I asked the question, the Hatch kids and my kids, are they a cohort? Pretty much. Because they're at Brandings all the time, putting cap on something, they're this far apart. And she seemed, now, we don't want to get crazy, but she seemed a little more realistic the other day than I thought was going to be. That was my take. Now, we still have that plan, but if you have a kid that stays at your house every night, and it's basically
We do have a few of some bus runs, especially in some of the suburbs and all, where it could easily be a cohort or smaller bus routes where everybody's together most of the time anyway. I don't know, that's, she didn't seem to have some flexibility there, like James.
But who knows, that some kind of stuff could depend on where we're at too, as case loads go up, then they back up some stuff.
Hey, James, was that one of the questions on the survey, if parents would be willing to take their kids to school?
It is not, Georgia,
Okay.
that particular question. I envision we may have a few more surveys as we get some more definite information, just to get input. I mean, I don't see why it hurts to allow people, if they want to have input as we learn things. So that's pretty easy.
One of the things that we can't do, I don't know that we can do anything about it. It's a little frustrating from the state, on my perspective, that there's not a tier 0. We got tier 1, 2, and 3, tier 0 just being like it was last fall. That if things improve enough to have, there's no hope of that, or they don't have that possibility. And I get why they wouldn't do that, but that's not wow, we've had no issues. We've found certain things out, we learned things, or haven't learned things. The state doesn't have a tier 0. Let's do, so public comment, we'll give you guys a chance to ask questions or make a comment. Try to keep them brief and to the point, introduce yourself. If you support an idea that somebody previously stated, state your support. You don't have to say the same things all again. No individual attacks on, I'm not gonna read out political, economic, ethnic background, character. So yeah, if you have questions or concerns, or obviously, we appreciate you coming, and if you have anything to say or questions, we'll be glad to hear them.
I have a question. My name's Karen Hatch. My question is on those higher risk kids. Is there a way we can get them back into school if the doctor signs a note, or we can have a liability release?
My understanding on that is in the adaptive plan, they only allow people without any of those underlying conditions to come back, those seniors that we talked about. My understanding, we're confirming this, is that will not be the case this fall, but that will be up to parents. Because they also said that if there are situations where kids are required to wear masks in general, like on a bus or whatever, that if there's a condition where a particular kid, should not wear a mask because of their health condition, that we can work through those cases individually also. So I don't know what that means. I guess the health department would have to see it and why and say, okay, or something.
Are you saying they can't come back? That was one of my questions.
That's what my understanding is.
It's up to the parents.
Yeah. In other words, nobody's going to be barred from coming back unless, I guess it's a confirmed quarantine thing with COVID. We are confirming that, because that's what I'm assuming from everything I've heard. But then when somebody asked me that, I thought, we should have asked for that yesterday for sure. But I'm pretty sure that's the case. If they're able to come back, if it's parents are okay.
So if you have a suspected case, how does that work? Did they give you any outline of that? If that kid has to stay home until he's confirmed or not, or?
All right, this is what they said. It is not the school's responsibility to determine whether the kid has COVID. You need to work that out with the doctor. And so sick kids aren't to be at school. But if you have any of those symptoms, I'm probably going to have to go home, talk to the doctor, and then.
Or the health department.
And then the doctor or report it to the health department, and then.
They told us, I know we had some issues where employees would say, well, I went somewhere where there were, I went somewhere where this person had been in contact with a cousin that had a COVID. Our health department said they were only, this was last spring, that they were only concerned with direct contact, which they have a definition for. It has to be a time and closeness and all that, of a confirmed case. So it's not like, oh, Cassie went over here and she found out later that a cousin of that person she went somewhere with had COVID, so everybody's got a quarantine. It's a pretty refined definition of a quarantine, and they will tell us, we're not just going to say, you know, we think you might have COVID, you've got to quarantine for 14 days. In fact, our staff, we're not just gonna, we're gonna consult the health department, in other words, before there's a quarantine decision. And that's not gonna be up to us.
And she did say that the CDC and the state is working on more of a procedure for when that happens. They don't have that all the way out yet.
One concern that I ask, all of those list of symptoms that they have, running nose, nausea. I mean, of course, Melissa's a nurse, so I mean, I hear this all the time. I mean, like I said, that could be 30% of the whole school all the time if COVID wasn't even in the picture. So it is going to be some challenges involved. As she did say, like if they had one of these symptoms and they were sent home, they went to the doctor, it was diagnosed as something. They could then come back when they weren't running fever. They weren't going to keep everybody home if they had one or two symptoms. It had to be confirmed COVID case. One of the issues we have right now, at least, is the timeline. When you send in a test, I mean, it's sounding like it's a week before you get anything back. Well, a lot of it, that's going to do this for it. But anyway, that's not our issue. That's the health department's issue.
So
We are to refer them to their health provider and or the county health.
So what if it's like an ongoing thing? Like what if it's allergy season and my daughter has a runny nose every day? I mean, I can't smell or taste because of my sinuses. And every time you go in every building, they ask you that. Well, I just lie now because I know it's a sinus infection, but how do you deal with that if I consistently have that issue?
I think if you get some kind of medical documentation, you statement, that should be enough. Of course, I'm assuming.
But every time I call the ear, nose, and throat doctor to go back, they make me do a test every time before I go back there. Could you have to do multiple tests?
We're not going to order tests. That's not our role to order tests. So,
How are you gonna send my kid home every day though?
especially yours.
Well,
They're already home most of the time anyway.
Just like refer to the student handbook.
All right, don't pick on Karen. Hey, Katie, or I mean, you have questions or comments?
I guess my concern is what kind of a structure our kids are going to have. I mean, I'm kind of concerned about the option of bouncing from being in the classroom to a virtual, to kind of a mixture of the two. Because I know for the elementary school age kids, that was a really hard transition. And I mean, not only mentally, but emotionally. And I do have a pretty major concern about that aspect of it.
I totally understand that. I don't know what to say other than we are required in that tier 2 to have possibly that situation where we're ordered to close down for certain kinds of cleaning. I mean, I guess I'm saying that's a little beyond our control. What we will do is in this virtual thing is try to make it a lot improve what we had when we just had to decide something overnight last spring. But that is a concern of anybody that knows kids. I mean, obviously, of this ping-ponging back and forth, there's no doubt. Now, my understanding is that if there is somebody that has an underlying health condition, a student, that parents say, I don't feel it's safe to go to school, and they pick the virtual option, we can put parameters on that. So in other words, if they start in the virtual option, they can't just decide a week later, I'm going to come to school. It can be by semester, it can be the whole year. It's not a ping pong in that, but in that classroom-based virtual, which is that tier 2, where some may have to be at home or quarantined and back and forth, that's the situation where you're talking about your concerns and anybody's concerns could come in. Yeah.
And my other question is, I know the last 3 years, all of the utensils have been group utensils. Is that going to still be the case this year, or is it going to be what the student brings is theirs and they're not sharing it?
That's a good question for maybe Darren or somebody, because I didn't even know that. I mean, I saw that question and I was going to talk to the principals to see kind of what that was talking about.
So we've asked for disposable trays and disposable utensils to be used.
I mean, like pencils, markers, that kind of thing.
Good, that is a good idea.
That's a good idea. We're going to have to deal with that.
I mean, for me, the last 2 years for first and second grade, I would not allow Kelsey to share her pens, pencils, any of that. The last 2 years, she didn't miss a day of school. And to me, I mean, because like Mrs. Paul did phenomenal last year. But she said, well, the kids get hand sanitizer before they grab them. And I said, okay, but do you know that they wash their hands? They're not picking their nose. They're not licking their fingers. They're not touching
things they should be touching, and she said no, and I said that I don't want her sharing, because that was her goal, was to get connected. And I wanted to do what I could to help her attain that goal.
And I think we'll be able to put those things in place that, the common sense things that we can do to prevent.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Gene, that brings up sort of Abby's question. We lost Georgia. Brings up a good, I thought I hadn't had. I had heard from a lot of parents about the online. They need it to be more specific, more detailed. It needs to go off better than it did. I've got older kids, so, it wasn't a huge concern. My kids did okay. But if we bounce, are we going to go back to the pass fail? That's a huge concern of my sophomore sons. Or are we going to be in a graded
It would
situation?
have to be graded because one semester you maybe can do that, which is what we did. But then, let's say for high school, then you have to exempt that semester from GPA because you don't want it to hurt them either. So I don't think that's feasible ongoing under some unknown, unending kind of situation that we're in. So no, we're gonna have to go back and have some kind of consistent grading. That's one reason why we're gonna require everything to be through one platform also.
Yeah.
And because it's easier to supervise for the supervisor, but it's also more accessible for students and parents.
I think it would help parents a bunch, and
Yeah.
that's one of the main things. I mean, the mask, Georgia said she's not getting back on, sorry. The masks, are an issue for everybody. Sounds like we're gonna have some flexibility. But what's the issue is if parents have to homeschool, they might as well have control over it, and they weren't. There was just, everything was coming from everywhere. I was the same with my kids. I'm like, can you write something down so I know what's going on,
And some teachers were much better than, I totally get the consistency. We were
Yeah.
just obviously in a bad spot and that was not a
Right.
perfect way.
So we're
way
gonna
to do
have
things, yeah.
a good, solid plan if we have to do this jumping, which I hope we don't.
One of the requirements is to get into it, and of course I already had some, but I'm getting into it on the survey on suggestions on if we have to do that, the weaknesses of what we did and so on, which like I say, a lot of us could have listed those without seeing the survey. But one of the state requirements is that you have as seamless a situation as you can if you unfortunately do have to ping pong somewhere.
Sounds great written on paper.
Exactly.
If your child is sent home from school, like with the runny nose or whatever the thing is, then they have to do virtual school while they're home? And then they get tested and then come back, or how does that work?
I would not think they would have to go do virtual school if they're home a day or two. I think if it turns into a quarantine from a COVID thing, that's a decision we have to make.
So it'd be like a normal next day of school
Makeup
though,
work.
that would,
We're still gonna have like makeup work to go home
Yeah.
for short times.
I didn't
Or
know.
planned absences. I mean, some families have plans and they do things so they're absent.
Are the allowable sick days going to be extended with the whole COVID thing? Since
You talking about the letters with the 7 days and all of that? Yes, I say yes. I'm going to bring back next month a revision or an added line that gives flexibility to that whole system. Katie, you have anything?
My main question is, what is the punishment if I say my kid is not wearing masks? What do you, are you just gonna say, we
Well-
can't come, we can't get on the bus, we can't, what's the punishment?
Well, here's
Because
what I
I need to
think.
make a decision sooner rather than later if I can send my kids to school even, because I'm not doing that.
Well, here's what I would say on that, and this is my philosophy. If you're gonna have a rule, there's no point having it if there's not some kind of enforcement. So if we're requiring masks on buses, then we can't let people get on buses without a mask or there's no rule. So that's the same way with class changes at secondary. If that's what we're required and that's in our plan, I don't see the feasibility of then saying, well, it's optional, because it's not optional. It's a rule that's been approved by the county health and the state or whatever. So there will be some type of enforcement. I mean, I don't know what else to say on that. I'm just being honest.
So not.
So if we make mask optional, we won't be able to open school.
I understand that,
So-
but there's one person deciding all this. There's 20 of us sitting in this room, and one person is dictating to how many hundreds of people.
Yeah, I'm not saying I like the system. I'm just saying it's where we are. It's where we are.
I know you're in between a rock and a hard place. I'm just telling you how I feel as a parent.
Sure.
That I will not be sending my kids to school with masks. Any level of mask.
I mean, that's part of the freedom of this country to make those decisions. You know?
Right?
And that's where I was a week ago. Now I was like, no, but, you know, at the end of the day, my kids are going to school. So I want to stay married. So you know, I think it's sad to me that there isn't a tier 0, you know, personally, but that's.
I personally, I would be okay with anything besides that. Temperature checks 3 times a day. Wash their hands 20 times a day.
Where does your kid go to school?
Encampment. I have a kindergartner and a 5th grader. So good luck getting my kindergartner to keep a mask on even from point A to point B.
Well, and you're in a better situation in encampment than you would be in Saratoga for wearing a mask, realistically with the size of the school and stuff.
We heard it. Thanks, Katie. I don't think you'll be the only one that has that opinion.
I just want my, you know, that's
Yeah,
what I'm here.
appreciate it. I think that the surveys will go out, which would be interesting. When do you think you'll have the survey data back, Jim?
You know, I didn't put a deadline, but I probably need to say, you know, Monday or Tuesday next week and then compile it and share it at least beginning with each other, the admin team and the board. And then publicly, I mean, like I say, I'm planning to put the results on the website or something where it gets out public.
Well, the district's hands are tied as far as the mask going, but, right?
And class changes. And two, they did give us some, so like secondary kids, if they come in the morning and they all want to congregate together in the commons area, then they indicated that they would need to be masked. They could go straight to their rooms, however, and be separated into smaller groups and they would not have to wear masks. So, I mean, there are options depending on what you feel like, I guess, as a student.
So Jim and principals, I have a question, which I hadn't thought of before. So if we, obviously, it relates to our schedule. We have a lot of Fridays that we don't have school scheduled. If we get to, this is, okay, hypothetical, all right? So November, and they say, all right, you have to go to tier 2 for a while or something. Do we have the flexibility to mandate Friday school later on to catch up?
It's a good question. Our calendars are approved by the state, so I mean, I just have to ask them what kind, can we revise that in the middle of the year?
And we may have run into staff issues and that we've paid them to do virtual school, but, you know, like, obviously a lot of us have concerns with virtual school. It's pretty weak last year. And, you know, it was thrown together and all that stuff, but it's just not the same. If we have those Fridays, I guess that's my question is, can we use those like banks a little bit of?
Here's one thing I would say on that. Teachers are paid on by the day, it's in their contract. So if we increase the days, we're gonna pay them those extra days, whatever the day it is. If we are out of school because of whatever, we wanna make them up on Friday, then yeah, we even.
Right.
So
So
there's
we're
that
not trying to
piece.
do virtual school and that at the same time. We're making them do virtual school.
Yeah, they can do on Fridays to be virtual.
No, I'm saying if they did virtual school for a while,
Oh, with students.
that's why I know the staff, if they had to keep going with kind of half school and then make up for it on some Fridays, it could cost us.
Yes.
Unless we
Anything
just
above the
say,
number of days.
unless we just say, okay, no school for 5 days, and then we're gonna make up 5 Fridays. I don't know how that would look. It's
Yeah.
just a general question.
And we're gonna do a some kind of a facilitator of this virtual program so the teachers are not teaching that and, or how's that?
My first thoughts, and I have not really, I mean, I don't know whether I should just give my thoughts, but my first trying to organize this and how we can pull this together is to possibly offer a stipend if you want to take on the virtual kids, because I'm hoping they're not, it's a minimal number. Again, that's another thing we don't know. So as long as we have, say, a science certified teacher that's willing to get a stipend for going to the extra trouble, they could be the science teacher, say, district-wide for all the virtual kids. And then they would have a couple of people that would be liaisons that we would pay. One of them, we already have one of them, you know, we put in the budget as a possible option. That could be the go-between, because one of the communication between the family, the student, and the teacher. So all of that's not on the teacher. They have to call phone calls and all that. And then they have to have a mentor coach. So those individuals could fulfill, I'm hoping, that role. So it's a little unknown. I mean, I'm just trying to make it work, really, to be honest, without, well, even if we wanted to hire a bunch of extra teachers, they're not out there right now. So I don't even think that's an option if we have the money to do that. So I'm trying to make it work within our framework and make it a choice maybe for teachers that would like to do that in our related side. All have to be board approved at some point, but that's kind of my first thoughts on that. I'm open to suggestions, so if anybody has better ideas, I'm listening.
Money's gonna get tight next year, my guess.
This coming year, as far as that goes, this coming year, I think we won't be too bad a shape. After that, there will be a cliff.
Yeah. We're gonna be wanting to jump off of it ourselves.
Okay. Any further questions, comments, concerns? I just want to reiterate that I was, and it is county health and not the state. The state could come down different, but I was, I guess, I had more of a sense that they're committed to having in-person school than I thought they might be. Now, who knows? They could prove me wrong in the first week of school. But any comments? You guys that were there in the meeting?
I was very good. I think I was relieved not by listening to Amanda and some of the flexibility that we have. I think we learned a lot from going with that alternate plan last year. I think the use of Schoology K-12 and having one platform that all the parents use and all the kids use, you know, we have to go that route. In preparing staff to do that on day one, you know, right when we get here in the fall or in August when they come do the training, I think that we'll be better prepared, and I'm very happy we're going to have kids inside of our schools come August. So.
Okay, do you want to?
The other two
items?
There's really one other. There's actually two, but it's a little related. The update on the easement to the town of Hannah, basically, Bill can jump in, but he's working with the town to get that done. That's the easement to the side of that old Hannah Elementary where the town wants to keep that road open and assume that responsibility.
I spoke to the mayor probably about 2 weeks ago now, and basically suggested to her that she provide something in writing to what it is they want, where they want it. She thought they could pull out a map and at least draw something on there with a link that was just what they wanted. So I haven't received anything. I was thinking about that on my way over, so I put a note to, if I don't hear anything, I'll call her back on Friday.
The other thing I was just going to very quickly is a facilities update. Hannah Elementary has been a really big mess. They are to the point now where they're worried about the re-landscaping and the sprinkler systems and all of that. So they are making some progress to be able to, you know, open it back up. And they're still, at least Darren went to the last meeting, but I think they're still saying they're pretty much on. It's tight, but they're thinking they'll be on.
Right, they're on. So let's say they had to put in 120 cubic feet of material underneath the Hannah School, 120,000. They're still on track to do that. Problem with my reclamation is they put it underground and they're not sure exactly where the material goes. So that's a little bit of a guessing game, but they believe they're on track. Everything, you know, Brierly, the engineers that are on track are really on top of them and doing a good job. That project's gone pretty darn well. but if they find voids in some of the underground mine stuff, that can throw it back a little bit. But they're confident we can have kids in school, on first day of school.
And the only other really facilities update I would say is the Saratoga Elementary and the Hannah, are the encampment security vestibule. There has been a back order delay on the frame for the interior doors. So they can do everything except that frame and doors. And the best scenario is that they would be here middle of August, but it's going to take a little bit of time to actually do it. They did tell us today at our meeting that we can still use those entrances and exits at those buildings, and they're going to leave the buzzer in case it does flow into the year, and then they can come and finish it. So I'm just giving you an update there. The COVID has affected a lot of supply chains.
All right, we don't have a principal report, special ed, or curriculum director. Back to audience guidelines and public comment. Is there any other public comment about anything else, or, you know, a follow-up? Appreciate you guys coming and speaking up. You know, it means a lot to come in person and share your concerns. It always is more effective than just sending an email or filling out a survey. Even if you don't think it's what we want to hear, we appreciate you coming and speaking up. Don't assume that it's not what we want to hear. And you guys don't have to feel bad about leaving at any time. Or you can stay for the whole meeting and go through the financials. So I appreciate you coming. Move on to unfinished business. Item 8A, the approval of the sale of the Messenville property to the town of Messenville.
All of those approvals have been done finally, so we're to the point where the board can approve the final agreement. Bill, if you have any questions or comments?
I know school facilities approved it for June meeting. You've got the agreement in the packet. Just would ask that you guys approve that, and get over to the town of Madisonville, their approval for next meeting. We probably, I don't think it's in the motion, I guess, we probably ought to authorize the chairman to sign the deed to transfer the property. So approve the agreement and allow the chairman to sign any documents related to the transfer of the property. If anyone has any questions about it. This is the same agreement you reviewed, March meeting, I think, March or April meeting. The only difference is I had a signature line for school facilities to sign it, and they don't need to do that when they're emailed to us. All they're going to provide.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the sale of the Madisonville property to the town of Madisonville, previously leased to them, currently used as a town park, and you be the signature authority on the deed.
And what was the dollar amount for that?
$100.
$100?
Sorry.
I second.
Moved and seconded to approve the sale of the Messenville property to the town of Messenville, the football field area, previously leased and then currently at the town park for $100. Allow chairman to sign. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Item B, student handbooks.
All right, there are two things I would point out about the student handbooks, and then I think we're ready for a motion with a little bit of an addition in the motion. My recommendation is to approve the student handbooks. I would point out these two changes. One, Jacob has added, they have open lunch for 12th graders at Saratoga Middle High. He's added 11. It helps with numbers. It's optional. Parents don't have to let them. So I just wanted to point that is in there, just so if anybody has any questions or comments about that. And then the other one is the attendance thing that we kind of mentioned a little earlier. That attendance, you know, I'm recommending that somebody make a motion with the following change: remove references to numbers of days and required letters and insert a reference to board policy regulation JEDR. Because then when we change that regulation, that policy regulation, it will automatically, you won't have to go back and amend the handbooks. You're referring to a policy, if you change the policy or change the regulation, then it automatically will update without having to go back and say, I'm going to amend the handbook. So basically what we're doing is referring to the policy, encouraging good attendance, but we're taking out the requirement to send letters at certain absences and so on in the handbook. And then in our policy, I will bring back a revision. And basically, I'm thinking, again, I'm open to input, but I'm thinking that the policy states something along the lines of, the letters, and it says it gives you flexibility if there are medical reasons or other family emergency kind of things. There's something like that. And I would just like to add, if there are unforeseen circumstances that are approved previously through the administration, and then add those two things. And it gives a little more flexibility about letters. Some principals are using flexibility and judgment there, some are not, or in the past, I'm saying. So we're just trying to get the handbooks to say it's basically the same thing by referring to the policy, and then if we change that, it automatically. That's my thinking.
There'll be a link to the policy.
Well,
Not in the handbook, that they hand out.
Well, that's what
it's going to be an online thing, so we could put a link. In fact, that's the other reference.
I guess that's only would be all my only concern there is if we have a printed one that we hand out or something, that it have at least a print of the most current.
I think we can put a link.
If you put it in the handbook, though, now you have to amend the handbook later when we change it next week, or you can't approve the handbooks right now.
Right.
And some of the schools have this, they actually spell out it, some spell it out. They use a different amount of it, and one doesn't even have it at all, it just refers to the
I mean,
policy.
as long as it's a live link.
Yeah, and there's another area where that travel thing, that we refer to that, so that's not a bad idea to put links in there.
That's what I'd say, you don't want, I guess I wouldn't want somebody to have to look that up. It'd be nice if you had a link, oh, what does that mean? And then you just jump to that policy.
Good idea.
I make a motion to approve all student handbooks with the following changes if necessary. Remove references to numbers of day and required letters, and insert a reference to board policy regulation JEB-R, and online make a link to that policy. This reference will stay consistent with the policy regulation as it is revised over time or not.
A second.
Moved and seconded to approve the handbooks with the changes mentioned. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Item 9A, which Bill or Jim, one of them alluded to earlier, engagement letter with the firm of Hickey and Evans to advise the district on personnel questions or issues that are surfacing out of COVID-19 situation.
Mr. Chairman, I'll take this up. About a week and a half ago, Superintendent shared an email with me, and I think the gist was 367 questions regarding reopening the schools, which was a nice thing to get on Friday afternoon. But seriously, there's so many issues that are going to come out of this. We just heard a couple tonight, and I think they'll be ongoing. While I'd like to say I have all the time in the world, and I hate to turn down any work, quite honestly, I just don't have the time to, I think, answer all of those stuff. So that's one concern. Concern number two is I'm a one-man shop, and so there's really nobody for me to bounce these things off of. And I think a group response to me these questions is going to help. The firm of Hickey and Evans is a firm that's helped us, I think, on one or two investigations over the last decade. They've helped us one time on a special ed matter, and I think they also represent our insurance carrier. This helped us a couple times when we've had issues come up along those lines. They represent multiple other school districts. They're a 12-person firm, 5 or 6 of which specialize in school law. And so for all those reasons, I think having an outside source would be beneficial to the district. On top of that, they've already kind of started down this route and are working with multiple districts already with some of these issues. And so I do think while their hourly rate is more than mine, I think there'll be a cost savings just in economies of scale. And these guys are going to be looking at the same issues that they're looking at for other districts. They're also working closely, they communicate with Tracy Copenhaver. And I do think, although each school district is different and have their own issues and their own solutions, I also think having a common thread between all the districts will be helpful as you guys move forward, at least in recognizing what the problems are. Solutions may be different, but recognizing some of the issues that we have will be helpful. So for all those reasons, I'd ask you to consider the hiring of Hickey and Evans to assist this district with the COVID-19 legal issues. That hopefully won't be numerous, but we
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the engagement letter with the firm of Hickey and Evans who will advise the district on personnel questions / issues that are surfacing out of the COVID-19 situation.
Second. Moved and seconded to approve that engagement letter with the firm of Hickey and Evans for issues regarding COVID-19. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thanks for hanging in there, Paul.
thank you guys.
You betcha.
Appreciate the recommendation. Okay, item 10.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, 11A, treasurer's report. Well,
Mr. Chairman, the balance in your Carbon County School District Number 2 General Fund at the end of June was $3,833,060.45. That is under the statutory limit for carry forward balance. We're under the model limit for the carryover balance by about $20,000. A little less than $20,000. You see there your revenue for the month of June, your reimbursed expenses, your June bills, and your June payrolls. You see there your major receipt from the Carbon County Treasurer, your interest income, and your federal and state reimbursement. You can see the various investments at the various rates and maturities. I will note that the WildStar rate did go up to 7.76% for the month of June. We don't get that before this is published, so it is got up a little bit, so that's a good thing. Do you have any questions regarding the general fund? Your financial report for all your other funds on the next page are, you can see those balances in the grants. We're getting pretty good at spending down our grants. I think that that's a good thing. You see the comparison between June of 19 and June of 2020 payrolls. You see the balances in your scholarship accounts. There were no new scholarships issued during the month of June. The employee benefit fund, major maintenance fund, your capital construction fund, your depreciation reserve fund, your lunch fund, your encampment activity fund, your HANA activity fund, your Sartoga activity fund, and the Medbo lodging deposit account. The various balances at the end of the fiscal year for all of those accounts.
so Sally, the jump in payroll, was that due to our appreciation bonus?
Yes. That did count in June of 2020's payroll. Any other questions regarding your other funds? Did you have any questions regarding the summaries of your expenses and revenue for the fiscal year end? I think we landed pretty good. That concludes my report.
And Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the payment of the following bills. Now, do I need to read June and July separate? Should I?
Yes, please.
Okay. Okay, for the month of June, general fund, $1,063,880.99. The July regular, $78,110.53. Federal fund for June, $370. Federal fund for July, $3,390.60. Major maintenance fund in June, $47,101.56. Hot lunch fund in June, $8,733.68. On the hot lunch fund in July, $3,015.76. The encampment activity account for June, $66.28. And encampment activity for July, $1,307.96. HEMHS activity account for June, $2,317.92. Saratoga Schools activity account, June, $1,340. And in July, $1,361.31. For a subtotal of bills in June, $1,123,810.43. Subtotal for July, $87,186.16. For a grand total of $1,210,996.59.
Need a second.
Okay.
Moved and seconded to approve the second half of June and July bills in the grand total of $1,210,996.59. All in favor, say aye.
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 And just that those of us that were on bills committee, we didn't have time, so we will email Sally. Next month's bills committee is Joe, Cassie, and Mike Ford. Got it. First time. All right. Items from the board, nothing in A. Item B.
That's just that corrected regulation as far as travel with the 1 night football and all those changes.
And we don't need any action on it. Any questions or comments? George's not here.
She said there was no update.
Okay, thank you. All right, board member comments. Casey, you want to start?
Start, yay. So, I guess I'm gonna give you a little lecture while I sit here. We've got a lot of parents, like the person that was sitting in the corner of our room today in our district. And I would suggest as board members that these people have elected us, that we reach out to these people. Because I'm very similar to Katie, but with the flexibility and speaking to my own kids who want to go back to school, they want to be with their peers, I can tolerate. And I mean, I know there's nothing, I just know that people have liberty and freedom and they can do what they want. But I would suggest that if people call or they email, that you make sure you make those contacts. And let's try to handle this with some common sense and some courage, because frankly, this seems like it's turned into this bullying situation where, you know, we're not gonna do this if you tell us to do that. You know what I'm saying? It's basically turned into a political bullying situation. Dr. Copeland knows, and I mean, it's bad. So I would just make the comment that you guys remember who elected you. And I realize that we have policies, but please reach out to those people. We may be able to change their minds. I would hope that I can talk. Katie's a good friend of mine. I told her to come and say what she said, but I'm gonna have a long conversation with her because I think our kids need to be in our schools. And so if you have those kind of people, do that. Because I was frankly called by a businessman here that can make this happen, that is going to push a charter school. So let's try not to get to that point. If we can make those contacts, I think we can smooth a lot of this over and hopefully we'll move out of this at some point. This real tight restriction, I hope. So that's my lecture for you guys. I hope we have fair normal, as normal as it can be, and I hope that we can go to school as normal as we can, and, you know, we all try not to lose our minds, because we already have, some of us, myself included. Okay.
Welcome, Mr. Johnson. It's nice to have you on
I think I
board.
met both. Sorry, Mr. George didn't make it down there, but I'm glad to be here. We're moved in and somewhat settled, so
That's really great. Good to have you.
thank you.
And I wanted to tell all the parents that were here, thank you for coming. It's really great to hear from them. And I've heard a lot of frustration over the last couple of weeks with just not knowing. I think a lot of people, parents are in the same boat of just trying to make decisions of what's best for their kids. I felt really encouraged by what I heard tonight. You know, I heard a lot of new information from Dr. Copeland and James, and does make me feel better moving forward to be getting some of those answers. Just encourage all of the parents out there to fill out the survey and to approach us and let us hear their comments, and we might be able to provide some explanation of why these decisions are being made. I think that's the biggest frustration is parents are saying, why are you requiring masks? Or are you? And it's just, you know, it's not our decision. So get more of that, you know, like Casey said, a lot of that information out there. I think parents are much more understanding when they can understand where it's coming from. So hope you guys enjoy the last month of summer.
I'd like to start. I'd like to thank Dr. Copeland and his staff for he's on the front line filling all the 8 District 10. It's not easy. We have to take a stand someplace. I'm with you guys. You know, we need to support the people who come in with questions and with hot attitudes that don't understand everything that we do. We have to reach out to them and try to explain our situation, our where we're at, who's guiding us, who's telling us where to go. It's not going to be an easy thing. I'm not a big fan of the mask either, but in order to get our kids back in school, we're going to have to take a little bit of that. But we're going to have to stand up at some point and say, you know, enough's enough. And I don't like anybody saying the new normal. I don't. But thanks to everybody that's sticking with us and staying in there.
Welcome, JD. Glad you're here, and hoping you're getting settled in. And I'm sure Darren is guiding you, and as you all work together, principals. These are trying times and difficult times, and from one week to another, you're never sure what is going to be happening. So we do have to be fluid, and we. This is no easy task, and I want to thank all of the administrators and the staff that are working together, along with the parents with their inputs, to get the plan that's going to work and work the best for the most. And thank you.
JD, I'm glad you're here. I think I remember from your interview, one of the things I really liked that you seem grounded and in reality, and I think that's something we honestly need right now. And we kind of had a calming presence, which I liked in the interview. So I think it's a lot of stress to move here, move your family here, and move into a house and all that stuff. But I appreciate you being here. I'm glad Miss Nice Letter. I didn't get to talk to her much yesterday, but I'm happy that she's here. I went to school there. The same thing. She seems like a steady lady, and I think that's good. Probably a little more involved. Yeah, you know, I don't want my kids wearing masks either, but I think it's more important that they're in school. And so, you know, the state is only going to approve our plans if we follow certain things, and that hopefully we can get to a new normal and we don't see a lot of issues. But I appreciate the administration is between new normal and the old normal. Sorry, Charlie. The new normal, my new normal hasn't changed. I go to work every day. If you don't want to come work at the TA, get another job. Like punch cows, feed cows, fix fence, or get another job. It's America. But I appreciate the administration. I hope we can all be appreciative of most parents have pretty sick of the kids by now, and kids are very low risk for COVID. And then we have elder staff like Jim that, you know, he doesn't seem to fear for his life. So, but I just appreciate that you guys are in a sensitive position. And
Not for COVID.
I appreciate I appreciate the position you're in and handling with tact and dignity and yeah, appreciate it.
I would like to say that I know this is difficult, and welcome, Mr. JB. I think it's important going forward from here too, that as the board, we are the ones people are coming to talking to. I think it'd be important if we attended these meetings that you guys had the other day, just for the fact that I have 5 million questions. I get asked questions all the time. It's not very comforting to parents when I don't know, and then it's out, and then it's not, and then it's very confusing. Excuse me. The easier we can make it, and if they can feel comforted that we have thought of things and gone through everything and know what's going on. When I don't know what's going on, it's not very comforting. Which I know we don't know everything going on from day to day, but the basic stuff we as a board need to know and need to be part in, and so we understand what's going on as well when we have to answer to the public. And I thank everybody for all the hard work that they have been doing. This isn't easy. And I look forward to sending my kids to you and letting you have them. Thank you.
That's a good point, Karen. Like the meeting yesterday, I learned a lot. I wish we all could have been there. Then we have a board quorum, a board meeting, and there becomes other issues. But I felt a lot better just having that information that I could obviously relate to you guys that I didn't know yesterday, you know? So, yeah, it's a great point. I think, I don't know, I sometimes wish we would do this every meeting, is read our mission statement. What's the purpose of this district? Our mission is to prepare students for the 21st century with engaging, challenging, and innovative instruction. Always keep that in mind.
You know, let Paul talk.
Yeah, sorry, Paul. Man.
That's all right. Everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
All right. Being last, you usually get to piggyback on everybody else. I agree with Casey 100%. We need to be diligent with the people that are bringing questions to us and make sure that we're reporting them correctly. And also I agree with Charlie, you know, and both you and James said the same thing. Nobody likes social distancing. Nobody likes a mask, but if it gets us in the doors of the schools, you know, that's probably the most important thing right now. And lastly, thanks to the A-team, you know, you guys are on unprecedented things and times right now. Last time this happened, I heard it was like 1918, and only Charlie knows what that was like. You know, thanks A-team. You guys do a great job, and awful proud of you.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you. Okay, we don't need an executive session. Approve the minutes. The next regularly scheduled meeting date is back on a Monday, August 17th, 6 p.m. here at the central office.
First day of school. Not sure we all want to be here.
Yeah, it'll be a celebratory meeting. As far as the special meeting,
Let's just go ahead and come up with a date if we can do
yeah.
that.
You have a
Is that-
suggestion, Jim?
Yeah.
I would say either the 23rd, 27th, 28th, whatever works for everybody to be here. That's a Thursday, and then the next Monday and Tuesday.
You said Thursday, the 23rd?
23rd, or that Monday or Tuesday, the 27th, 28th.
I like the 23rd. That way, if there's a lot of questions or, you know, comments, then these guys have time to.
That's next Thursday. You gonna have it by then?
It's a week from tomorrow.
Mhm. You will.
I may not have all the answers, but we'll have a plan.
I like your insights. It looks good.
And I think whatever date, we ought to shoot for 6 again.
No, I think that's good.
All right, any opposition to the 23rd?
What'd you say, 6? Here,
Okay, Thursday, the 23rd, 6 PM. Special meeting.
that will be advertised, right? Open to the public.
If we have it open to the,
It's a board meeting.
should we have it in a bigger area? Do you think we'll have any more response from people?
I think let's have it here. If that happens, we can cycle them in.
Yeah, I mean, we can bring in,
We can say, come in and then you gotta go back out. We can open the blinds if you want.
they're lined up around the block.
Yeah, I think we'll be all right. All right. Okay. Dana, you can advertise that. All right.
Please.
Please.
Now, it will only be advertised in the Saratoga Sun. I will be able to get it in on Wednesday before the Thursday meeting, but we will also get it in the Rollins paper on Saturday.
You put it on the website, a special announcement.
You send it out on e-notes, is that okay?
No, we did.
I mean, I don't think people are gonna show up, but I think we need to do a better job of putting it out. Yeah, so at least they can send comments.
You can send that out tomorrow, the notice of the meeting, if that's what everybody knows.
I know like some of the people that were here today, they had some issues and I'm like, this is the meeting date, time.
Yeah, I told a lot of people I didn't see their faces, so.
Okay, item 16. We need to recess the regular meeting in order to hold a budget amendment hearing.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I move that we go into recess of the regular meeting and in order to hold a public hearing on the budget.
Second.
Moved and seconded to recess the regular meeting in order to hold a public hearing on the budget. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, this is from the past school year, so, Sally, I don't know.
Basically, the resolution, the budget itself is not changing from the 19,200,000 that you approved the amendment in June. What I'm asking for is your blessing on moving $310,595 from the 3,000 area of transportation basically to the 6,000 or 6,200 area to operating transfers. We didn't move or allocate enough money into transfers to accomplish our goal on the transfer side of depreciation reserve. And we had, because we didn't have school for 3 months, we had extra budget under transportation, that we could move that budget from transportation into transfers. That will help us mitigate the expenses that we're going to be facing this coming year, because transportation and special ed are down for last year, that our reimbursement is going to be down about $400,000 to $500,000 for special ed and transportation. So that puts that $300,000 into reserves so that we can have it to spend on new buses or that sort of thing for the next year.
They should go up in the next year because it'll be based on this year's expenses, but we don't have a clue what budgets are going to affect in the future, so nothing may go up. Who knows? But the reimbursement should go up because our expenses will go up in special ed.
That's the expectation.
Expectation.
All right, need somebody to read page 4. Long.
Thanks. Okay, here we go. Budget amendment resolution. Whereas on the 15th day of June 2020, budget officer filed with the Board of Trustees of Carbon County School District Number 2 proposed budget amendments for the fiscal year ending in June 30, 2020. And whereas a summary of such proposed budget amendments were entered into the board minutes, and a notice of public hearing on such budget together with said summary was posted in 3 conspicuous places in the district, and whereas a public hearing was held concerning such budget amendments on the 15th day of July 2020, at which time all interested parties were given an opportunity to be heard. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Trustees of Carbon County School District Number 2 that such budget is amended and hereby adopted and subject to future amendment, is in effect for the fiscal year ending in June 30, 2020. Be it further resolved that the following appropriations continue as made of and for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2020, and that those respective expenditures applicable to each department and fund shall be limited to the amounts hereby appropriated, subject to future amendment. Appropriations as amended. General fund, 19 million? Yeah. 200,000 for total appropriations as amended is 19,200,000. Dated this day, June 15, 2020.
Second.
Moved and seconded to amend 2019-2020 general fund budget. Changes as noted in the budget summary report. All in favor, say aye.
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 Remember, you'll need to sign those, the
Yeah.
resolution 3 times.
Okay, and you got the,
The top one is the amendment, the next will be the actual 2021.
okay, I'm gonna wait till we're done. That was perfect. All right, we need to adjourn the budget amendment hearing and reconvene in regular meeting. Need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded to adjourn the budget amendment hearing and reconvene at regular meeting. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, now, 18A. It seemed like we did this last year, but,
We didn't have in a budget.
well, I know, but with all this. but
Oh.
maybe we approve we need to recess out the regular meeting again to hold a public hearing on the budget.
So moved.
Moved and seconded to, again, recess the regular meeting or to hold a public hearing. It's just a hearing on the budget. Public hearing on the budget. So, any comments, questions from the public regarding the budget for the upcoming school year? All, did I?
Yeah, we have a motion and a
Okay,
second.
all right. All in favor to be in this public hearing, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're in it. All right. Any comments, questions? No. Okay,
Josh, you're the one public.
there's no data to put out here. Okay, now we need to adjourn that public hearing.
So move.
Second.
Move and second to adjourn the public hearing and reconvene into the regular meeting. All in favor, say aye.
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 Now we are back where we started in the regular meeting. Okay, item A, rec board.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adopt the CCSD number 2 rec board budget for the fiscal year 2021.
It has been moved and seconded to adopt the rec board budget for the fiscal year 2021. Does anybody have any tough questions for Paul? All those in favor say aye.
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 Can I ask one question about the rec board?
Well, it just passed.
Well, it's not, it doesn't.
Yes.
Paul, did you get somebody to fill that seat?
Yes, we got, that little gal from Medicine Bow took over.
Perfect.
Yep.
My name's Matthew.
Because he's so politically.
I
Oh,
can't remember her name right now, guys. I'm drawing a blank. Liz something, I think.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thanks, Paul. Okay, item B, BOCES.
Mr. Chair. Let me read this thing for you. Is that,
Just have to
oh,
make a motion for
Just have to
approval.
make a motion for
Okay.
BOCES.
I recommend that we approve the BOCES Board 2021 fiscal year budget as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt the Carver County School District 2 BOCES board budget for the fiscal year 2020-2021. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Okay. Motion carries. Now, regular budget.
Summary. Are we all resolutions?
Do we have any questions on the details?
Okay, we're ready. Whereas on the 15th day of July 2020, the budget officer filed with the Board of Trustees of Carbon County School District Number 2 a tentative budget and budget message for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2021. And whereas a summary of such budget was entered into the board minutes and notice of a public hearing on such budget together with said summary was published in the Saratoga Sun and Daily Times, a newspaper having general circulation in the county in which the district is located, on or before the 8th day of July 2020, or notice was posted in 3 conspicuous places in the district. And whereas a public hearing was held concerning such budget on the 3rd Wednesday in July, at which time all interested parties were given an opportunity to be heard. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Trustees of Carbon County School District Number 2 that such budget as revised, if applicable, is hereby adopted and, subject to future amendment, is in effect for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2021. Be it further resolved that the following appropriations are made as of and for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2021, and that those respective expenditures applicable to each department and fund shall be limited to the amounts hereby appropriated, subject to future amendment. Appropriations. General Fund, $18,300,000. Grants, $940,000. Major Maintenance Fund, $2,440,000. Capital Construction Fund, $200,000. Depreciation Reserve Fund, $1,725,000. Employee Benefit, $28,400. Food Service Fund, $585,000. Trust Fund, $15,700. Pupil Activity Fund, $703,000. Recreation Board, $273,048. Carbon County School District Number 2 BOCES, $338,000, for a total appropriations of $25,548,148. Be it further resolved that after deducting all available cash and estimated revenues, the following amounts must be raised through general taxation, and that such levies as are required to provide such amounts are hereby authorized as of and for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2021. Amounts to be raised: General Fund, $4,382,647.40. Recreation Levy, $175,305.90. Board of Cooperative Educational Services, $87,652.95.
Need a second.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to adopt the Carver County School District 2 operating budget for the fiscal year 2020-2021. Any discussion or questions? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, budget passes. Thank you all for coming. I hereby adjourn this regularly scheduled meeting.
Thank you, board. Did everybody sign the bill approval
Okay,
sheet?
and here is the, need you to sign that triple K. I didn't sign that amendment, I still think I-
Here.